We are being unburdened by what has been undone this week on Implicit Bias. Yes, we're approaching the witching hour, and your implicit bias has never been more important. I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon, and this is a Halloween trick-or-treat pre-election 2024 episode of Implicit Bias. We are at our favorite remote TSPL locations. We're at Mr. Lester Steakhouse as we get ready for maybe the most historic American Tuesday in, well, ever. I mean, look, there's an awful lot at stake on Election Day in 2024. For some, it's about making sure that the White House isn't occupied by a totalitarian, racist, narcissistic dictators. Others are trying to keep Donald Trump out of office. So some are of the belief that Donald Trump will prosecute Epstein and the Diddys and the Clintons and the Bidens and the CBSs and the MSNBCs of the world, which means for them that this election really may be a life or death ordeal. After all, treason is still punishable by hanging. So if you've sold the offices of the United States for cash, if you've interfered in elections in exchange for maybe cash from foreign governments, if you've blackmailed United States politicians with sex tapes or other bad acts, you're going to pull out every single stop. You're going to do everything. You're going to go full tilt to ensure that your way of life, your life, as a matter of fact, is preserved. And when you are that immoral, that means that you will do whatever, anything, everything. The ends now justify the means. And let's be honest, we've seen much of it already. Arguing that people who aren't residents of the U.S. saying that they should be able to vote. Yeah, we've seen that in front of courts. Manufacturing votes in swing states. Yeah, we've seen that. Lying, cheating, stealing, burning, it's all on the table on Election Day in 2024. What's most important, however, is that the actual lie is called out. It's what the lie reveals. It's maybe even more about the liars. In fact, this is one we can actually learn from Will Ferrell. You know, liars who sit on a throne of lies. And really, that's a full-on understatement. We know from the most ancient of ancient texts that the lie doesn't only tell us the full story. After all, we know what will be brought out into the light of day, after all. What the lie tells us most about, though, is the liar themselves. John 8:44 reminds us, when he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. See, the people who are willing to lie to get their way in this election, they're willing to show you the depths of their own corruption, the moral bankruptcy in their souls. The liars who are getting ready to try and cheat in this election, they are evil. And this is what's such a big deal in this election. It's not if there will be cheating, it's when. We know there's cheating. And how do we know? We know because we're students of history. So let's revisit 2020. 2020. And here's why we revisit it. We're doing it like 3 times. It's okay. We know from history that those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. So let's see. 2020. Thousands of ballots coming from the same address. Check. Got that already. Confirmation of voting machines switching votes. Check. We got that one already. Now all we need is what? A water main break and the dropping of millions of votes at 3 a.m. in the morning when people aren't supposed to be counting anymore? Will it happen exactly like that? Well, maybe not. Then again, who knows? Maybe it will. If they're smart, it won't. We'll see the same lies in different veins. It may be during the election. It may actually be after the election. But on November 5th, this is the one thing we absolutely do know. November 5th is not the end of the struggle. This biblical struggle literally between good and evil, November 5th is just the beginning. But this is a new beginning. And this is a beginning where most everyone knows in their heart of hearts, almost everyone knows the truth. Many know that one candidate may be a fighter, but it's a fight that must be won. A fight that maybe isn't on the up and up. It's a fight that's probably rigged, and it has been for a long time. And guess what? A nice guy doesn't win that fight. Someone who's willing to kick and punch and scratch and hit back, that's the person we may not like, but we need. We may not like that person, but we have to respect that person. Look, the leftists, and we're not fans. We don't believe what they believe. We don't think they're on the side of righteousness, but we do respect their commitment because they are committed to the lie. They are committed to the cheat. They're committed to the steal. They're committed to the assassination attempts. They're committed to it all. And when we don't like it, you know what? We do have to respect it because now it's time for us to grab a weekly whiskey, kick back, discuss with your crew how to solve the problems of the world. You know what? They don't have to like that you're doing it, but it's about damn time you make them respect your implicit bias. Implicit bias, pre-election, recorded pre-Halloween, airing after Halloween. It is just an absolutely monumental episode because we are also announcing that while this one is going to air on terrestrial radio, New Orleans, WGSO, thank you, KMLB in Monroe, our home station, right, 96.5 KPEL in Lafayette. This will air particular episode from Mr. Lester Steakhouse on the Saturday before November 5th. So what, officially November 2nd, right, is when this will air. We will actually also be live on Facebook, X, YouTube, on election night with a reaction watch party live from the Mr. Lester's TSPL. Now, we won't be at Mr. Lester's on that Tuesday, but we're going to do our best Mr. Lester's impersonation. We're going to dress Renee up like Chef Willie. We're going to make him cook steak. It won't be as good. We know this. We're going to have all kinds of fun, and it's also going to be live stream, which means it's uncensored, uncut, unfiltered implicit ballots. So tons of fun. Watch for the announcement on our social media platforms. We'll set up the event. You can log in, you can watch, you can participate because we will have computers in the TSPL. You can talk to us. Gonna be tons of fun. No topics except for one. The one that's going on live at that time. So let's get to our weekly whiskey segment here in our TSPL South, otherwise known as Mr. Lester Steakhouse, the Cigar Lounge at Cypress Bayou Casino. And let me introduce you to the crew that's here with us this week. Let's start across this beautiful coffee table that we have where we have our weekly whiskeys. And let me introduce you to Jonathan Broussard of Industrial Fabrication Services. You've seen, I know, from the normal TSPL, the usual TSPL, located somewhere in downtown Lafayette, that yes, that beautiful implicit bias sign, he had that made. Jonathan, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Glad to be here. Glad to see how the upper half of the world's living too.
The upper half of the world. You've been here before. Don't BS a BSer, Jonathan.
Capacity,
don't BS a BSer, Jonathan. We know. All right. In the chair across from me, while we switch microphones over there, we have Grant Galatas of William S. Nacol Jewelers, K&B from Kennebra, It's great to have you here, Grant. Notice you got all dressed up. We appreciate you coming here.
Yeah, don't get started. don't even go that route.
Grant didn't get the memo originally, but he had a jacket. He always carries one with him. So it's a pleasure to have you here and see you all dressed up in your nice snakeskin boots.
Well, I have to give a little shout out to Chef Willie because he actually provided the coat for me, and it smells like a lot of different kinds of foods. I'm loving it.
Oh, well, wait, look, when
I'm
we get to
getting
the
full with just wearing this jacket.
when we get to the menu tonight, trust me, you are absolutely going to smell all the different foods that they have laid out. Let me just say that scallops are on the menu. Let's say that sea bass is on the menu. Let's say that there is an just absolute delicious beef course, and I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to let Chef tell you what it is because this is unique, and it's one of those steaks you don't get often, only at a place like this. So let me introduce last member of the crew who's here, and then we'll introduce you to the rest of the group that's here for the show. He is Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist. Wow, problems talking this evening. I promise I haven't been into our weekly whiskey. Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist. Matter of fact, Renee, when you showed up today, we first saw you with a cigar delivery here to the cigar lounge at Mr. Lester Steakhouse.
Yep. Chef Willie had called me a couple of days ago, and he said, "Hey, you coming to the recording?" I said, "Yep." He said, "Okay, I got a list you need to bring me." I went, "Oh, okay. I can do that." So, yeah, he's restocked now. So this weekend you can come and pick out cigars. He's got some great cigars in his humidor. And I just love coming to this place because this is my place.
It's Mr. Lester's place. It's not your place.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I feel like I'm at home because, I come here. They got nice, comfy chairs. They let me smoke a cigar. They don't fuss at me for smoking a cigar. And they have good whiskeys and they have great food. And the reason why you're not telling us the beef course is because you probably can't pronounce that steak.
No, I honestly, I absolutely can because I double checked with Chef to make sure that I got the right pronunciation. But see, most people know it as something different. Most people don't know it under that terminology. So let me introduce you to the rest of the crew. Better off dead, actually living up to the implicit bias pledge. We're so glad, Walker, that you actually wore your pledge pen.
I'm glad I remembered to bring it.
But he did bring the bell.
Forgot the bell.
Wait, so he remembered the pin. Say that again, Grant, since you have your microphone.
He
Renee,
forgot my bell.
He forgot the bell. So, Renee, instead of a bell, we have something else when someone hits a major point on the show this week. What is it? And what are you supposed to say?
I don't know.
Oh, you said it earlier.
I don't remember. I'm old. I forget.
Well, we know this. You're supposed to look up and say, "Can I get a witness from the congregation?"
Yeah, okay,
right?
yeah.
Can I get an amen?
We'd ask Chef Willie if he had a bell, and he goes, "I'll see what I can do." And he'd come back with the tambourine, and Grant says, "Oh, I'm not too late." I said, "Give me that. I can take care of that."
The Cajun Janis Joplin over there.
Yes.
Shaking that thing all night.
The Cajun Mama Cass.
Yeah.
Dyed ham sandwich. All right, at the table, we should also have a shot. You're in the shot, right? Yeah. Oh, come on. No, you're on the whiskey on purpose. We don't have a shot of you and Aaron. I thought we had a wide shot of you and Aaron. No? Of Aaron and Walker. Oh, Tug. Okay, we're just going to start calling you Tug because we thought we had a shot of everybody. All right, we see how you want to be. We see how you want to be. You and Matthew and Walker, not on camera for this. So the reason you're not on camera, I get it, is so we can show you the weekly whiskeys that we have. And actually, we're going to have probably more than just these weekly whiskeys throughout this course of the show. And here's why. We're going to start with a weekly whiskey that a lot of people really strive for. A lot of people are really looking for a bottle of Eagle Rare. It's just that simple. A lot of people know the name. A lot of people know the distillery, comes out of Buffalo Trace. It used to be an easy-to-find $35 bottle. And then people found out that essentially the same mash bill that they use in Blanton's and Pappy Van Winkle and George T. Stagg, it's the same mash bill that you're going to get with Eagle Rare. But it's the aging, it's all the things that differentiate a George T. Stagg or a Pappy that make one of the same distillate One barrel becomes Eagle Rare, another barrel might become George T. Stagg, right? And they do have a couple minor mash bill tweaks, but it's not much differential. So people started going after Eagle Rare. Well, now Eagle Rare is a $50 bottle. And guess what? You still can't find it. But one of the things that we like to do here on Implicit Bias is talk about our weekly whiskeys, what you can find at our weekly whiskey partners, where sometimes you will find bottles of Eagle Rare. But more often than not, you won't. So what we wanted to do this week is we wanted to bring a bottle of Eagle Rare, and we're going to taste it and rate it here on the show. And then we are going to open up the very special promotion that Mr. Lester Steakhouse is going to run for the month of November, only the month of November, to say, hey, maybe there's other stuff out there that is better, every bit as good, that you might like. Because guess what? It's not the label. It's not the price. It's about what's in the bottle. So let's start with this Eagle Rare. And Grant is trying to tell Renee, your tambourine, Renee, your tambourine, you missed it. And can I get a witness?
Can I get a witness?
There we go. Okay. All right. So Renee, you want to chime in first on this Eagle Rare. What do you think?
It's almost like when Buffalo Trace started this, they anticipated this, naming it Eagle Rare. It's Eagle Rare is a good whiskey. It's not the great whiskey everybody thinks it is.
In your opinion?
In my opinion.
Some people absolutely love it.
In my not so humble opinion.
Yeah. Trust me, we're aware. No, I'm kidding, Renee.
I mean, it is a good whiskey. It's a very drinkable whiskey. It's very smooth. It's good. But, the reason for it being rare, I don't get. It's just... people are going crazy over it, and it's a good whiskey. I mean, but yeah, to go from $30 to $50 a bottle, I don't get it. It's a great $30 whiskey. I don't know about $50.
So Renee, I'm gonna blow your mind on this one, because if you find this on the secondary market, people are paying $100 a bottle for this, sometimes more.
There's a lot better whiskeys you can buy with that money than this.
So,
I mean, it's like I said, it is a good whiskey, but regular Buffalo Trace is a great whiskey to me, and it's half that price.
$23 a bottle is the retail, $24, $25, $26. All right, Grant.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What flavor notes do you get on this? What do you think of this Eagle Rare?
It's funny that Renee said that, because sometimes the mystique and the rarity in itself will create a little more hype than the actual product when you get a hold of it. But don't get me wrong, it's 90 proof. It's just there's certain whiskeys and bourbon whiskeys like this that you taste, and they're just, for lack of a better term, just friendly. I mean, it has a real pleasant taste to it. Yes. The 90 it's not overwhelming. We've all started to love a little bit more of the stronger proof, where it hits you a little harder, lets you know it's in the room, lets you know it's going to stick around with you for a while. But this one, seriously, it's just really friendly. It's the taste. I always look for the caramel and the vanilla. I'm not getting too much out of this, but I'm getting like a little darker, like an almond.
Okay.
Not necessarily an oaky. I was looking at some of the reviews on it, and I'm trying to pull the oaky out of it. It said a little more on the nose. You get that oak, but yeah, like a cocoa or an almond taste, a little bit darker.
I love the cocoa comment. I get a heavy cocoa on this. I get an almost chocolatey flavor on the palate with this.
Right.
Not as much caramel, not as sweet.
Which is what I look for. I love when that caramel vanilla, and that's which one is that? That's the
that could be
a lot of the bourbons.
That could be George T. That could be George T. Stagg. That could be a bottle of Stagg, which used to be called Stagg Jr. That could be a Pappy Van Winkle. There's all kinds of stuff. It could be a William LaRue Weller. There's all kinds of stuff that Buffalo Trace produces that yields that really great flavor profile.
Right.
And I am really partial to that beautiful Buffalo Trace flavor profile. I just am. But what's really interesting is people a lot of times have created artificial demand around a bottle like this that has some of it, but it doesn't have all of it. And what's really interesting is if you know what other bottles to go look for, some of which I actually happen to see on the shelves here at Mr. Lester Steakhouse. And we're going to ask them to pull some of these and just give us some small pours. Because one of the things that we're going to do as we go through this, that Bib and Tucker is absolutely fantastic, but they've got some other stuff that I want people in here to taste after tasting the Eagle Rare and be like, man, I've got to come down to Mr. Lester's and get a pour of that so I know what to chase. Jonathan, what are you thinking?
I think it's pretty good, but to me, it's your basic bourbon. It meets the definition. Just enough corn, just enough caramel, just enough wood, oak. I kind of taste like a fresh tree bark, if you will. Just not so much toasted, but just alive.
Yeah.
But it's basic to me, and it's solid. It's always the same, but I'm with you all on that. It's chased way too hard.
And this is what I don't want to happen here to the rating, which is this still good? Absolutely. This is a really good bottle of bourbon whiskey. It just is.
Both bottles on my shelf say so.
Yeah. But is it everything that the hype has created? And that's the hard part. I loved what Renee said. We have sampled on this show multiple bottles under $100. That if you're going to go pay $100 to have a bottle of this on your bar from the secondary market, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I mean this in the St. Thomas Aquinas definition of love, to will the good of other for the sake of other. Don't pay $100 for this bottle. Please don't. Don't pay $75 to $80 for this bottle. Please don't. We're not the only bourbon whiskey podcast out there. We're not the only show on YouTube that does stuff like this. We're not the only show on X or Instagram. And at the behest of hurting ourselves, find someone who cares enough to tell you about the bottles that are half the price, under half the price of that secondary market price of this, that $100 mark. Go buy that. Let somebody drink that and watch them go, oh, wow. Because some of those are really special. Speaking of special, Walker. And I mean that in every sense of the word. You obviously like this bottle. You liked the transition there, didn't you, Walker?
I did.
Yeah, that was good, wasn't it?
That's how you can tell his glass is empty already.
Yeah, his glass is empty.
No, I really did. I like this a lot. The taste wasn't strong like on your palate or anything like that, but people that are paying $100, $80 to $100, there's no way I'd pay that price. I'd pay 45 to 60, maybe 60. But other than that, I mean, I really like it. I do. I would buy this, just not at the price they're asking.
And that's the condemnation here. The condemnation is not the bottle of Eagle Rare. That is not the condemnation. The condemnation is the guy who wants to sell you a bottle of Eagle Rare and charge you $100 for it.
It's a very clever name, actually.
It was
Eagle
named
Rare.
that.
It's rare, the rarity. Hey, look, I'm in the diamond business. I know I know rarity sells. So why not put it right on the bottle and
Well, here's the funny
make
part.
the mystique.
When they created this brand, you could find this brand everywhere.
Right.
This brand was 6 bottles deep, 4 wide, every shelf, every liquor grocery store across Louisiana. And then all of a sudden you had the great bourbon run. Speaking of runs, Walker, again, is giving me the 1-minute finger, which means that we've got to take a quick break here. We're going to come back. We're going to rate this on the Morse Whiskey rating code. We're going to award the What Would You Pay championship belt chain, because what we're going to do is we're going to see who's closest to the absolutely approaching plaid, redonkulous deal done here in the top secret podcast lair south at Mr. Lester Steakhouse during the month of November when we come back on Implicit Bias. Implicit Bias back on the air. We are sipping whiskey. We are solving the problems of the world. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. We are, if you are on the video side, obviously not in the normal Mr. Lester's TSPL. We are in the real Mr. Lester's TSPL. We're in the cigar lounge at Mr. Lester Steakhouse at Cypress Bayou Casino. If you're on the radio side and you're listening, whether it's New Orleans, whether it's Monroe, whether it is, Vidalia, whether it's here in Lafayette, go find our socials, because guess what? We are going to still be giving away entries to Winner Implicit Dinner. November 16th, you can join the crew. We're not doing a show. We're just having a party, not a Diddy party, a regular party here at Cypress Bayou Casino. We're going to provide dinner for you. We're going to provide drinks. We're going to provide your hotel room for the night. Don't thank us. Thank Mr. Lester, because he's the man. Yeah, go ahead, Renee.
Can I get a witness?
We got it. Yes. It only took him one segment to get it right. That is Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist, Renee Girard. He's with us here in the TSPL South. We have Jonathan Broussard of Industrial Fabrication Services. We have Grant Galatas, otherwise known as K&B from Kennebra, also the purple and white of the original K&B where he and I grew up. He is from William S. Nacol Jewelers. At the table, he didn't set up a camera because he doesn't like being on camera. We have Aaron David, from now on known, from henceforth, he will be known as Tug, because that apparently is his nickname.
The reason why he's not on camera, his personality is too big to fit in the camera.
Yes, his personality is... Then again, Renee, I don't know. We fit your ego in the camera, so... I'm kidding. Renee does not have an ego like that. It was a fun shot we had to take. And, you know.
I missed my bell.
Yeah, Grant's like, I missed my bell.
Uh-oh, here we go.
There we go. Oh, we have food as we get ready to rate this Eagle Rare. So Chef Willie is bringing us food here, and we're going to pass this around. Oh, he's going to put it in my hand, and I'm going to need a fork that I'm going to have to grab in a second. So this is the appetizer. Chef, what's the risotto again? Pumpkin, yes. So this is just what looks to be an absolutely deliciously seared scallop over a pumpkin risotto with a boursin sauce, Chef? Yep, I seem to remember that correctly. This is the appetizer that we're about to pass around. But guess what? No one's getting it until I get a fork. Anyway, very quickly, I'm going to grab it in a second. We're going to start rating this Eagle Rare on the Morse Whiskey rating code, and we're not going to play What Would You Pay, because we talked about what this bottle really should be worth. What we are going to do is we are going to play what is the every pour price this month at Mr. Lester's. We're going to take a guess at what every pour is going to run at Mr. Lester's Steakhouse in the month of November while I get a fork. So, Renee, let's start with you. What would you pay, and where do you rate this bottle of Eagle Rare?
It's definitely a green. I do like this whiskey. It's a very good whiskey. And because the way they do things at Mr. Lester's, they do crazy prices on a lot of their pours. I'm going to put it at a $5 pour.
A $5 pour. So I have a fork. So this is about to start making its way around. And for those who don't know the Morse Whiskey rating code, this is the Morse Whiskey rating code. Red, I wouldn't drink it even if it was free. Yellow, only if it was free. Green, I would buy it. Blue, I would seek this out. So Jonathan, while I try this scallop, where do you rate this on the Morse Whiskey rating code? And what do you think is going to be the price per pour for any bourbon whiskey at Mr. Lester Steakhouse during the month of November?
If I can concentrate while you dig into that appetizer, I would give this a green. It's definitely a green.
Okay.
I'm going to say $10 for a pour all month long.
I'm not saying you're right, but oh my goodness. That scallop, it went straight to plaid. It is absolutely delicious. It is seared and cooked perfectly. The risotto is just outstanding, and I wouldn't have thought a pumpkin risotto was something that I would really dig into. It's fantastic.
Pumpkin's fitting for October, right?
It is. It's very fitting for October. Okay, so Renee, you have the Eagle Rare at a green?
At a green at $5.
No, not at $5 a pour. This pour is not available here at Mr. Lester's, but
What?
all their pours are a price. So
Oh,
you're
okay.
saying-
I thought it was
Nope.
all the bourbons.
Any
you're saying.
bourbon pour that's available here at Mr. Lester's, you have it at $5.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Jonathan, you have it at 10, and you have it also at a green. Grant, where do you rate this Eagle Rare?
Let's see. Green, $12. Let me eat.
All right, so he rates it at a green, $12, and he wants to eat. Implicit Bias pledge, better off dead. What do you think?
Solid green.
Solid green.
$8.
$8. Renee, you know what I need? I need that tambourine to go nuts because we have an exact on-the-nose price for any bourbon whiskey pour at Mr. Lester Steakhouse during the month of November. Go ahead.
Can I get a witness?
All right. The What Would You Pay Championship Belt Chain. Now presented by Box Drop of Lafayette. Mike Trammell, member of the OG crew, back with Implicit Bias, goes to Jonathan Broussard. $10. Any bourbon whiskey pour, $10 at Mr. Lester's during the month of November. So, Jonathan, you get to grab the chain and you get to wear it.
And the reason why, Mike came back is because that chain's so heavy, you need a mattress to lay on it because it just weighs a ton.
You do. We are in the process of actually redesigning the What Would You Pay Championship Belt Chain, but Jonathan's going to wear it for the rest of the show as we dive into solving the problems of the world and realizing that, you know what? You don't have to like the game, but you do have to respect it. So you heard the monologue. You heard that, yes, I don't like leftists. I don't like people who cheat in elections. And guess what? If you are a conservative and you're cheating, we don't like you either. We don't like anybody who cheats. We want everything to be on the up and up. But it just seems like all the votes that happen to come in usually seem to go one way. When's the last time that someone found 30,000 ballots in the trunk of a car 2 days after an election and they were all Republican votes? I'm waiting. Never. Right? Well, gotta respect the game in Pennsylvania. Polk County and Luzerne County, Pennsylvania. Now, this is the best part because we were told cheating doesn't happen, right? We were told there's no election fraud. There's not enough for it to matter. Doesn't happen. The Luzerne County DA actually gave the press conference. Please don't believe us. Please don't. Please do not believe us. Go look this up. The Luzerne County District Attorney in a press conference came out and said, yeah, we got a report after we received 2,500 ballots that all came from the same address, that there might be some election fraud. So we investigated, and guess what? They all had the exact same signature. I mean, this is like full-on CNC Music Factory, things that make you go, right? I mean, Grant, does this surprise you at all?
No, and I was kind of hoping this would happen too, because after all of the ruckus last year, and I mean, for the last election cycle, I was really hoping that there would be eagle eyes on all of this stuff and that people would be more cognizant of this sort of thing happening. Because it seemed like after the last election cycle, there was so many accusations, but so little proof, so little witnesses. For this to come out immediately like this, and the thing that just blows me away is they say they came in like the day that it was the deadline.
It was the day of the deadline for them to receive the ballots.
And what that tells me is that somebody is sitting there going, look, just throw them in at the last second. Nobody's going to want to go through them. Nobody's going to want to look through 2,500 of them, and they'll just pass them in. Well, so it's a very organized effort. I mean, you got to give it to whoever this piece of garbage is or this group or whatever they're doing. They're actually very meticulous and very scheming about it.
Yeah, but you'd sent out our homework assignments that there was a registration thing.
Yeah.
These aren't, you're talking about ballots or actually voter registrations?
So it is registrations. It is registrations.
Correct.
And, I looked at some of those sources that you sent out and it's an X, and I'm like, I don't know if this guy's trustworthy or not. So I did what you said. I went and researched it. And guess what I found?
What'd you find?
NPR has a report 5 days ago about this very topic.
So wait a minute, Renee, you mean the bastion of conservative media, NPR, National Public Radio.
Yes.
is
Yeah.
actually reporting
They
this?
actually, and I mean, the majors didn't, but NPR has a report on that 2,500 ballot or registrations that were dropped that they're having hard time vetting.
And let's be honest, you're not submitting a registration to do nothing with it.
No.
Why are you submitting the registration?
Yes.
So you can do what? Create more
Well,
voters.
I mean, basically, it's almost like an identity theft thing because you dump these registrations. It's fictitious names. It's fictitious addresses. Fictitious. I don't know what Pennsylvania what's required to register, but I mean, because every state does different things. But I mean, you're creating fictitious IDs. Like it could be like in New Orleans, dead people voting, but you're getting access to ballots, either mail in or otherwise.
Here's one of the really interesting parts of that story, and I'm glad you brought this up. Some of the registrations were completely fraudulent.
Yeah.
Some of the registrations were complete identity theft. It was the right driver's license number. It was the right address. It was the right name. It was the right person. But the signature belonged to whoever it was at that one address, filling them all out.
Well, and that was one of the things that in the NPR report is that the registrar noticed that the handwritings were the same on multiple ballots.
That's what he's saying.
And that's
forgery.
what brought it to their attention.
Yeah, so many different charges you could levy on this. I mean, that's forgery as well.
It is.
I mean, it's identity theft, forgery.
It's forgery.
Fraud.
It's fraud. It's identity theft. I mean, there's, you name it, it's there. And one of the things that I love is we keep getting mean tweets that say, if you are cheating on elections, people are watching, you will be caught and you will go to jail.
Thank
And you
goodness.
know what else I'm told we'll go to jail for? Ignoring the finger from Walker in the corner. Who's over there? Walker, you like that scallop?
That's delicious. Oh my God.
That was
Walker,
amazing.
This is radio, like you have to actually say something and you're not on camera so no one can see you.
That was amazing.
That's what I thought.
Agreed.
What else is amazing is that we'll be back with the final segment of this week's episode of Hour 1 of Implicit Bias right after this break. Wrapping up Hour 1 on this week's episode of Implicit Bias, and oh my goodness, wait till we tell you about the soup that we just had. Let me introduce you to the crew who's sitting here in the top secret podcast lair south, also known as Mr. Lester Steakhouse, the Cigar Lounge at Mr. Lester Steakhouse. We have Grant Galatas, otherwise known as K&B from Kennebra. We have Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist, Rene Girard, who is stuffing his face as we film this. We have Better Off Dead. It's also his nickname. He's Walker Griffon, the Implicit Bias Pledge. He's not on camera because Aaron David, who actually makes the video happen, didn't want to be on camera, so he's got a picture of the soup. That is what we are looking at right now as Aaron is back there, Tug, smoking a cigar. And of course, we also have with us Jonathan Broussard. He's off camera right now, but in his chair is Chef Willie Gaspard. Now, Chef, one of the best questions about this second course that you have served us here in the Cigar Lounge was, this has cauliflower in it? Walker actually looked at you. You need the microphone, remember. Walker actually looked up and said, this has cauliflower in it. And I'm like, wait, this is a cream of cauliflower with shrimp.
It sure does.
So first of all, we had, and walk us through the whole scallop dish. It is a scallop with a pumpkin risotto and a boursin sauce, correct?
Yes. So it's traditional risotto with pumpkin in it, Parmesan cheese, cream, chicken stock, reduced down, cooked down. Scallops were blackened, seared, finished in the oven, and then there was a little boursin cream with crab meat in it.
There we go. So, see, we've had your crab meat dishes before where you put basically the GDP of a small country in crab meat in a dish and say a little bit of crab meat.
A little bit.
Yeah, little bit. Yeah, not a little bit. We understand. Right. Okay.
We buy tons of crab meat.
Literally, you probably do buy tons of crab meat in a year.
Yeah, we do. Tons of beef too. And that was actually that was actually made by one of my cooks that work here in Lester's. That was made by Chance Picard.
So this was not your
This
recipe.
is not my recipe. I let him make the appetizer for the week this week, and that was what he came up with.
Please tell me that people who are making reservations can order that appetizer.
Absolutely. That's the featured appetizer all weekend.
If you're making reservations, don't skip the app. I'm just telling you, don't. Because what I love about it is a lot of times appetizers are too much. They're not truly meant to whet the appetite.
Right.
This, it's so light. It sits so well on the palate. And when you're done, you're like, I need more, which leaves you wanting more of whatever's coming out, which then was the soup course.
Right. That was just, we roasted the cauliflower in the oven, pureed, added cream, shrimp stock, and finished with cream and a little roux and shrimp, baby shrimp.
Oh, no, you did more than just that.
And I actually didn't make that either.
Who made this?
That was Dominique Hatcherson.
What?
He's the kitchen manager of Mr. Lester.
Then why are you here?
Hey, keep an eye on these guys.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on these guys that are gunning for your job.
Look, the dishes that we've had, and we've got rave reviews from, as we like to call them, the Real Housewives of Implicit Bias, the wives who were able to show up. Actually, Renee, they call themselves that. They came up with their own nickname. And I was like, well, that kind of fits.
Yeah.
Right? That and the collagen. I'm kidding. None of them. But that kind of fits. They absolutely love both of these dishes. I mean, I love that you allow the people who are here in the kitchen
Dominique
to just
is,
put it forth and say, hey, what do you think of this?
Dominique is one of my biggest accomplishments here, actually. When I was the chef in the Cafe Bayou back many, many years ago, I'm not going to say how many years, that's how old I am. He actually started out of high school as a dishwasher for me, and he's the kitchen manager at Mr. Lester's now.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
What I love about Mr. Lester's is we often say, and who was it? Amon-Ra St. Brown? Just absolute Amon-Ra St. Moron. I mean, I've been to Louisiana. They say the food here is great. I don't see it.
When did that? I mean, the receiver for the Lions?
Yeah. A few
Really?
weeks ago. Yeah, a
The
few weeks ago.
The slot merchant.
He went to New Orleans.
Yeah, he got his wallet stolen on Bourbon Street, so he had a bad experience here.
Well, here's the end of this, which is you're in the wrong places.
Absolutely.
You're not eating in the places that will allow and say, and trust me, we know you can afford it because you're an NFL prima donna wide receiver. And actually, I should have put prima donna first. But the point is, you're not eating in the places that are actually sourcing from real Louisiana fishermen, like you do, Chef, right? I mean, these shrimp probably came literally out of Delcom or something like that.
Yep.
All the stuff you serve. And I mean, scallops isn't native to here,
Right.
just so you know. But everything you serve is as
If we
local as
can,
you can
we
get.
do. Yep.
Yeah.
If we can, we do.
So what else do we have to look forward here tonight? I'm going to let you go ahead and tell us about the beef course in hour 2.
Okay.
I'm going to call it for what it is after you give us the scientific term for the muscle.
So we're going to have a grilled beef spinalis
Cap steak.
cap steak.
That is a ribeye cap steak. It's not it always amazed me that people said the eye of the ribeye. No, the eye of the ribeye to me was always that chuck end. You got that nice little round piece that ran vertically along the length of the cow that looked like an eye that was just so tender, so choice. And to quote Ferris Bueller, if you have the means, I highly recommend one. Anyway, that to me was always the eye of the ribeye, but what people call the eye of the ribeye is actually just the main muscle, not the spinalis.
The spinalis is the eyebrow.
And it is so tender, so beautiful. That is what you're serving us?
Yep.
How are you preparing this?
We're going to grill it, and I'm going to do a little spin on au poivre sauce. Au poivre sauce is usually with brandy cooked down. I'm going to do it with bourbon since we enjoying bourbon tonight. And I'm doing a potato that I'm everywhere I go outside of here and I go visit or I go to camp, everyone wants my potatoes. So these are my potatoes.
Your potatoes.
My potatoes. That's what everyone calls them.
So how, look, there are probably going to be a lot of people who like to watch, because I mean, we do so much on this show. We do politics, we do religion, we do food, we do stupid guy stuff. I mean, we're going to talk about why Americans are offensive food-wise in a lot of ways in just a minute.
Right.
We talk a lot of stupid, fun stuff. you going to give away the recipe or at least the idea of what
could-
makes up your
Sure,
potatoes?
Absolutely.
How do you make your potatoes?
So I take little B red potatoes, I quarter them, fry them, cool them.
Okay, so hold on. Deep fry, pan fry? I mean,
deep fried.
Okay.
Deep fried.
Oh, you have the
red
means,
potatoes.
yeah.
Deep fried potatoes, and I make a sauce with roasted garlic, onions, bell peppers, and I reduce that down in cream, and then I add the fried potatoes to it and let it cook down a little bit and serve it. Sometimes I add
Are you-
bacon. Sometimes I add
Are you
different thing.
kidding me?
I've had guys make sandwiches with it the next day cold.
Oh, I would believe that. Well, it's like the most. And look, I don't like potato salad. If you serve that to me cold, I would try and probably love that because that sounds like the most decadent potato salad,
Right.
warm ever. And if you put spinalis on top of that, and is it all about the bite at that point? Or is it about separating the steak and appreciating the
We
steak?
do it
Or
together.
okay. Just so y'all know, the plate is not making it past this spot. I'm just saying. Yeah, and Renee's got a fork out. He's like, I will stab you.
I'll cut you.
You will cut me, yes. Okay, so chef, I mean, that, and then dessert. No. Actually, there's another course before
Yeah, I'm gonna
dessert.
do a fish, sea bass,
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that.
broiled sea bass, and then I'm gonna set it on top of a seafood mac and cheese, white sauce, not yellow.
Okay, so background for the inside joke. When I saw the menu prior to the show, I looked at my wife and I was like, fish over mac and cheese? I was like, I hope it's white cheese. So I asked Chef, I was like, Chef, are we talking white cheese or are we talking like American cheese? He's like, oh no, white cheese. And of course my wife is like, who would do? And I'm like, we live in America. Right? We live in the United States where we are now have on the shelves cinnamon toast crunch flavored freaking bacon.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see what happens with mac and cheese. I mean, because our traditional, thought of mac and cheese, fish sticks, mac and cheese when you're
Right.
growing up little, sitting there doing your homework. I don't think this is
Gordon's-
going to be the same.
Gordon's fish sticks that came out of the
Right.
freezer? Yeah, no. I guarantee this is not that.
Exactly.
I guarantee this is not some Gordon's fish sticks with Stouffer's mac and cheese that you're throwing in the microwave until it gets burnt around the edges and you're like, yeah, but it's still so good because it's crack. Like it's literally chemical crack. That's what it is.
I can't wait to see this because I am a huge fish fan.
Stouffer's mac and cheese? You're bougie. How about the Kraft mac and cheese out of the blue box?
Oh no,
Blue and yellow.
I like
You.
the Kraft mac and cheese, which was powder.
Yeah.
How do you powder cheese?
I don't know.
Still trying to figure that out?
Yeah.
I guarantee there's what's called an anti-caking agent in there. Whole different rabbit hole. Dig down that one. Tells you just how bad they're trying to kill you. But what really tells you how bad they're trying to kill you is Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Stick the finger, Walker, but we gotta. All right. We're gonna bring Chef back in hour 2. We're gonna show you the dishes in hour 2. We're gonna dive into the $10 pours here at Mr. Lester's in hour 2. And we're also going to dive into more of how you have to respect the cheating game, but you don't have to like it. If you are, by the way, in one of our markets where we only get hour 1, find us on all of our socials, Facebook, X, YouTube, Insta. Get the whole thing wherever you get podcasts. Don't miss hour 2 of your Implicit Bias. $10 pours during the month of November at the top secret podcast lair south, also known as Mr. Lester Steakhouse at Cypress Bayou Casino. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon, as we bring you more Implicit Bias. And yes, let me tell you, the pours that are available here, you do not want to miss. So you're probably looking at a shot of bourbon that we've had here tonight on the show right now. The Eagle Rare, not here. I'll leave the bottle. Whatever's left, they can sell. I don't care. I don't know if it's legal. I don't think they care. Regardless, it's Mr. Lester, so he's going to do what he wants to do. But that representative, that Bib and Tucker, let me tell you, at $10 a pour and everything else they have, when I'm talking about Fourgate Bluegrass Trilogy 3 at $10 a pour, when I'm talking Redemption Cognac Cask Finish at $10 a pour, those are weekly whiskeys that will absolutely help you solve the problems of the world as we do here on Implicit Bias. Renee?
Some of those whiskeys are just unobtainiums.
They're hard to find.
You look
Absolutely.
at the representative, the senator. We drank that out. So
Yeah, there's no more senator left.
But there is some representative left. It's just you come here. The selection that they have is just phenomenal.
And the food.
Oh,
the food
it's
is
even better.
That much better. It is. We are waiting on our spinalis, which that is the scientific term for a ribeye cap steak.
Oh, I was
that
gonna say,
chef is
bless
going to
you.
bring us. Yeah, no. Let me introduce the rest of the crew because you saw and heard the voice of Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist, and we're going to talk to him about the cigars that you can smoke here in the only 5-star restaurant between New Orleans and Houston where you can also smoke a cigar in the restaurant. It's the only one in Louisiana that this can happen. We're going to talk to Renee about that in a minute. We've also got sitting next to Renee, Jonathan Broussard of Industrial Fabrication Services. He's here enjoying the show, enjoying being a part of the crew as he has been now for quite a while. He is the winner of the box drop, What Would You Pay championship belt chain, because he accurately predicted what the price of every bourbon and whiskey pour would be here in Mr. Lester Steakhouse in the month of November. Now, that's the implicit bias bracket. That's probably not everything. So if you come in and you're like, hey, I want that Johnny Walker Blue for $10. No, right? That's not happening because that's not what we do.
Well,
We
Johnny
do
Walker
bourbon.
Blue is not a bourbon. That's a Scotch.
But we also have some ryes that are part of implicit bias. So whiskey, you get a little muddied there, right?
Oh, okay.
That's why I say it's the implicit bias bourbons or ryes, $10 a pour. K&B also here, also known as Kennebra. Sitting at the table, he is the implicit bias producer. He is the implicit bias pledge. He is Better Off Dead. That's also his nickname. He is Walker Griffon, who is probably watching a baseball game right about now.
You would be correct.
I would be correct.
You
yeah.
would be correct.
He's not even trying to hide it anymore.
No, he's not. He's double dipping, right? He's enjoying doing what's not his job while he's doing his job, but here's the best part of this. And I said this earlier. I want to make sure we say this on the air. Walker, you're 22, correct?
Yeah, about to be 23.
Still 22, about to be 23. We give an awful lot of grief to the younger generations here on Implicit Bias. We do, because that's what should be done. What also should be done is giving credit where credit is due. Walker may be one of the saviors of his generation. Walker, while he's not perfect, Walker has shown up and shows out every single time we do this show. Since basically we kind of drafted him into being the new producer, he really didn't have much of a choice. He was kind of told, hey, you're the new producer after Sam, rest in peace, died to the show. And we needed somebody to do the work. Walker has been here. He hasn't been perfect, but he's learned from his mistakes, and that's all you can ask. So credit to Walker. We thank you for not only doing what you do, but also putting up with us giving you grief. Renee?
Even after he got a grown-up job, too.
Yeah,
He
because
shows
he's got
up.
his own
Now,
radio show now.
sometimes he's a little late, but he's there. He shows up, and we get the job done. He does a great job.
He does.
Thank you all.
Look, okay, hold on just a second. I don't think you realize the just the girth of this accomplishment, because somebody sat you.
You said girth.
Somebody sat you at a table and said, "We want you to do this job and drink whiskey."
Yeah.
And if you're not a big whiskey drinker, trust me, my learning curve lasted about 17 months before because first year I was finished by this point of the show. Second hour I was done.
Walker wasn't a whiskey drinker to start with. He was a beer
Correct,
guy
yeah.
like me.
That's what I'm saying.
And,
Don't downplay this, because
that's why I say Kavan is evil.
Hey.
He forced us to drink and learn to drink whiskey.
But look, he growed him up a little bit.
Yeah, he did.
Because he sat him in a chair and said, "Do this and drink 120 proof while you're at it."
Yeah,
That's no
That's
small
a trick.
thing. Yeah,
that's
right.
a trick.
So, gents, let's dive into solving the problems of the world as we like to do here on the show. We are getting ready for election 2024. And I often say there's a lot at stake. There's also a lot on the table. Everything is on the table. I mean, let's be honest. On social media, they are trying to prep some people for, we're going to announce that aliens are real right before the election. That's where we're going. They are prepping people to start watching hey, if you see something, say something. And we now have people seeing and saying lots of stuff. So one of the stories, and I apologize that you didn't get this as homework, but what we did get is a couple of Supreme Court decisions, several of them, a week before, or one of them a week before, which was really a big deal. The Supreme Court came out and said, yeah, election day, as is stipulated in federal law, means election day. It doesn't mean election month. And we talked about this on last week's episode of Implicit Bias. If you didn't catch it, find us on podcast, find us on YouTube, X, Facebook. It's all out there. We're pushing all that content. But you had the secretaries of state for Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin. Sound familiar? Sound familiar from 2020? All come out and say, we may not be done counting votes on election day. It might be 3, 10, 15 days. Well, according to the Supreme Court, as of today, and this is the interesting part because what you're going to get are multiples, because this was filed not in one of those states. There was a lawsuit that said, hey, we want to be able to count votes that come in unmarked, no postmark, after Election Day. And the Supreme Court said, how about no? How about no? Election Day means Election Day. You get your ballot in, or it doesn't get counted. Then we had a really big one the day we recorded this episode. So this was one of those things that happened late. 6-3 decision by the United States Supreme Court. State of Virginia, yes, you now can remove non-citizens from your voting rolls. Go ahead, Renee. I'm opening this up before I even get started.
The thing with that, why is that even a challenge? I mean,
what do you mean, why is that a challenge?
That somebody sued the governor of Virginia for removing illegal or non-citizens from their voting rolls.
Wait a minute. Why are non-citizens on the voting roll in the first damn place?
I mean, isn't that part of our laws that you have to be a citizen of this country to vote in this country? Ooh. So why was that even a challenge? You know, they went through the voter rolls. They found that these people aren't citizens. We have to remove them. And some a-hole decided to sue the governor of Virginia, going, you can't do that.
Tell us how you really feel, Renee.
Well, here's the best part. I'm trying to hold back.
Here's the best part. Remember this, Renee. The very same people that told you the government says you must have a vaccination, since that whole pandemic subsided, brought in 12 million people who weren't vaccinated. I want you to think about that and think about who are the people who want non-citizens to vote.
Yeah.
Why are those two things connected?
You know what's really strange, especially in California? Well, that's strange in itself.
Well, California's strange by itself, yes.
They actually, some municipalities have passed ordinances that allow non-citizens to vote in local and state elections. Now, the federal government says they can't vote federally, but they allow non-citizens to vote in local elections because, their kids are going to school, so they need to be able to vote for school board. No, you're here illegally. What part of illegal don't you understand? You're a criminal because you're here illegally. It just frustrates me. I don't get it.
Grant?
It's just the connection Kavan was trying to make. I mean, the sole purpose for opening that border was to all of the illegals were shipped to these swing states.
Come on, Renee, do it.
Can I get a witness?
There we go.
I mean,
That's the point.
Just that's why they were let in mass was to go to the swing states and affect. Now, Virginia's Governor Youngkin, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, and Youngkin sued the federal government for that, but then a judge in his state upheld it.
Well, of course they did. Oh,
That's just. I mean, they're not even trying to hide it anymore. It's so openly blatant. So
Benalis.
So we have a mass migration or immigration of these people brought in just to vote. And as soon as the election cycle's finished, what's going to happen with all these people?
Okay,
But
so
depending on who gets elected, we know what's going to happen.
here's the best part. Go ahead, Jonathan, and then I'll chime in.
You know, I
wanna
think
eat.
I think they're working on the common man's ignorance, and I'm by no means expressing stupidity. Ignorance to the fact. How many people actually know that just because you're living here doesn't give you a right to vote? How many are going to fight because that person doesn't actually have a right to vote? And it may be here on being illegal or what have you, you know?
That food is so good. That steak is so delicious and so tender. Literally, I cut it with a fork, number one. And number two, I completely forgot what I was going to say. I completely forgot where my mind was on track because that single bite of spinalis, and I'm going to enjoy saying that the rest of the evening, that single bite of spinalis with chef's potatoes was so delicious. To go back to what Grant was saying, the entire premise, and this is how you know that Donald Trump is winning. I know no other way to put this. This is how you know. And let's start here. Number one, the Harris campaign has pulled all of its funding from the state of North Carolina. They've stopped. They're not spending another penny. They've walked out. It's over. They're not walking out because they're winning and they're worried that he might come back. They are walking out because they can't win. That's number one. Number two, and this is the big secret that no one will say out loud. The big secret is this. They have to manufacture voters in order to try and come up with enough votes because they know how many people are going to vote for Donald Trump. That's the point. The very simple point is, and I'm going to say it, call me a conspiracy theorist. The only difference between me and the news is about 6 months because they're behind. They had to manufacture probably 30 million votes to claim a victory in 2020. And now they are trying to figure out how to manufacture 40 to 50 plus million votes. Because if you look at every single swing state, look at New Jersey. New Jersey is a great example. New Jersey is a notoriously Democratic state. Please, again, don't believe us on this. But if you go look at early voting, the Republican turnout is significantly higher when it's always been significantly higher for Democrats. And, you know, you can say, well, some of those Republicans we think are going to vote the other way. Great. Some of those Democrats are going to vote the other way too. So you know what to do with that. The finger that Walker normally gives us, we're going to give to you on that argument. But that's the point. The point is they have to manufacture voters. Without that, they're dead in the water.
I mean, that was one of the problems and the Republicans this time realized that after they keep saying there's no proof that they manufactured votes.
Oh, there's plenty of proof.
But, you know, well, they won't accept the proof.
That's a very good point, Renee.
You know,
go ahead, give yourself a can I get a witness?
Can I get a witness?
Yes.
You know, they don't know how many votes they need to generate.
That's
to
the problem.
beat it. That's what scares them. I mean, last time, you know, they had the 3 o'clock drop, which
3 a.m. Yep.
You know, that all of a sudden it just blew up. But now the Republicans are kind of beating them at their own game because they're showing up in advance to early vote, which they never do. But they're saying now, I mean, I saw a report in Lafayette Parish, 18% of the voters have already voted. We're lucky if we get 18% to go to the poll.
So I actually interviewed Louis Perret, who is the clerk of court for Lafayette Parish.
Uh-huh.
If Tug ever gets on his job and actually sends me that video, I'll put it out on our socials. He's over there enjoying that spinalis. Anyway.
You just like saying that word.
He anticipated somewhere around 65% of the vote would show up, of the voting public. That's high. I think we'll see higher. Yeah. I think we will see. What we are going to see, I do believe, is a ridiculously high national turnout for voters, which could make Tuesday night when we go live really interesting, because you may have a number that is insurmountable with 4 or 5 days down the road.
Well, I mean, normally, and I know in Lafayette Parish, because I know Louis well, I talk to him on a pretty regular basis. We're lucky on a big election if we get
name dropper.
We get 40. If we get 40%,
yeah,
of our registered voters in Lafayette Parish, we're lucky if we get 40% on presidential elections. And now, they're talking 60 plus. That's just phenomenal.
That is absurd. Much like what we are tasting here. So
those potatoes are the bomb.
Those potatoes are ridiculous. The potatoes are ridiculous.
What would it be like if he put cinnamon toast crunch bacon in there?
Oh God, no. You know what, Renee? I want to stab you with this fork just for saying that. Walker, take the finger. No, we're going to take the break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk more bourbon and whiskey, what's available here at Mr. Lester's. We're going to talk about the liquid that's in the bottle and the price for the pour when we come back in hour 2, which is always more fun on Implicit Bias. More weekly whiskeys, more solving the problems of the world, more of your favorite Saturday, whether it's morning, mid-afternoon, whether you're listening after hours, podcast, radio show, whatever, your Implicit Bias. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. Let me introduce you to the crew again. Across the table from me, they have feasted, they have enjoyed. Renee Girard, Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist. Jonathan Broussard, Industrial Fabrication Services. On my side of the table, Grant Galatas of William S. Nakal Jewelers. We call him K&B because he's from Kennebra. And then, of course, those you can't see, so we'll show you the food, we'll show you the whiskey. Walker Griffon, who is probably, hopefully, reflected in the glass table because he's not actually doing his job. He's watching a baseball game. And Aaron David, we call him Tug. But let me tell you, the look on his face when he tasted that spinalis, that ribeye cap steak, was absolutely priceless. So let's dive into kind of what we were getting into in hour 1. We're going to go back on the conversation because we talked about Eagle Rare. We rated Eagle Rare. I was about to say Evil Rare. No, it's Eagle Rare here in the top secret podcast layer south, also known as Mr. Lester Steakhouse, Cypress Bayou Casino, where you can actually smoke a cigar in the restaurant. The only 5-star restaurant between New Orleans and Houston. We like the Eagle Rare. It was good. But Eagle Rare goes for quite a bit. And if you find it in a restaurant pretty much anywhere between New Orleans and Houston, you're going to pay way more than $10. But if you come here, you see the representative, you see the Bib and Tucker. What you don't see are some of the other offerings they have, like the 4-Gate Bluegrass Trilogy 3. There are some Pinhook 8-year, 7-year, 9-year verticals that are just outstanding. There are some beautiful pours here. Walker, I want to ask you, you have now tasted, I think, everything we have on the table, and you've tried to find something behind the bar. We had to handcuff you to the table to get you back. You had the Eagle Rare. People will pay $100 for a $40 bottle of whiskey. What do you think is the best whiskey you've had?
Representative.
That took a while, right? Wait. Okay, tell us why.
Walker, wait. Before you make your decision, think about it. I mean, you didn't hesitate on that one.
Go ahead, Walker.
I just think best tasting still isn't the strong that hits you on like the higher proofs. I don't know what the proof is on that.
Yeah,
it's 116.
It's high.
Like
that's the highest proof we've had tonight.
Hit on your palate like it doesn't burn at all.
Right.
So I think that's
it's
really
very
good.
smooth.
The taste is really good. Very smooth. Just a big fan of it. Never had it before, so really, really good.
Renee, which one did you like the best?
You know that. Actually, I can't pick. They were all extremely good. I mean, the Eagle Rare I like. I just don't like the fact that it's rare. The Bib and Tucker, it was a great is a great pour. The representative, that whole series, the presidential dram, the senator, they hit it out in the park every time. It's a very, very good whiskey. And that they still have some here is amazing to me.
I'm shocked, to be quite honest, they still have some of
And
the
then
representative.
For a $10 pour, dude.
All during the month of November, the bourbons, the rye, $10 a pour here at Mr. Lester Steakhouse. And you can see the type of food you can get. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I want to get some of that mac and cheese.
The sea bass over a seafood mac and cheese is amazing. It is incredible. It is delicious. Okay, so Grant, I'm curious. Your thoughts on the best whiskey you had here tonight?
Obviously the sea bass. I'm sorry, I just tasted it. I like the representative.
And this is the representative, for those who don't know, if you find it on the shelf, which believe it or not, it's obtainable. It is obtainium. It's a $50, $60 bottle.
But like Walker said, look, it's 116 proof, but it is smooth.
It is. It's got just enough edge to it. It's got just enough aggression. And then on the back end, you get that sweet, that light caramel. It's not a heavy caramel. I call it a flan caramel. So if you've ever had flan, if you've ever had what they call caramel custard in Europe, you get that very light, liquidy caramel. That's what this tastes like to me. Jonathan, you're on board?
A creme brulee, kind of.
Oh, yes.
You know?
Yes, like a creme brulee,
I'm
light
with-
burnt sugar.
I'm with you all. The representative is hard to beat. It's solid. It's smooth. And as someone who shops out lower proof, and because of y'all is starting to look a little higher. I'm raising the bar, but it is great, easy to drink, smooth. Doesn't have fire in your throat. It's great.
Absolutely wonderful offerings here at Mr. Lester Steakhouse. Oh, Renee, you had the fish.
Yes. Yes. And
You didn't
and-
curse, so
no.
somebody needs to curse
Well,
in honor of Caleb Morris because he's
Caleb's
not here.
Well, I don't want, okay, I'm going to raise my hand.
He completely muted everything.
Can I get a witness?
But yes, it's correct.
Yes. Oh, my God. Yeah. Look, we've been coming here to Mr. Lester's, a year now?
A little over a year,
Yeah.
yes.
There is nothing that Chef Willie has made that you're not going to enjoy. I mean, it's just phenomenal. The foods, the combinations. It's the unique combinations of stuff that he puts together. You put pumpkin in risotto?
And
really?
Fish and mac and cheese? I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
But yeah.
Yes.
Well, and one of the main things here is that it's the top quality ingredients that Chef Willie goes and he searches for beef from a PETA approved.
Okay, so let's talk about this. This is fantastic. And we're going to go down a rabbit hole. We normally talk politics. We're talking election. We're talking all this stuff. The slaughterhouse that this steakhouse purchases from.
Right. Is PETA approved.
Reconcile that.
Yeah.
Leftist crazy yahoos.
Yes.
Reconcile that.
Yes.
PETA.
Yes.
People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
Well,
has approved this slaughterhouse.
Well, and the reason they did that is because of Dr. Grandin, Temple Grandin, who is a bovine specialist. She's a bovine behavioral specialist from the University of Colorado. She's also autistic. And she just studies animals and how they react. And she's the one that came out with this whole process that this slaughterhouse uses on how to keep the animals calm. And, because you go into some of these slaughterhouses, it's horrible. It's
terrible. Let's talk about food supply.
Okay.
Because food supply in the United States has been so adulterated.
Yes.
If you look at, and please, again, don't believe us on this brings us back down that kind of political, social, ethical.
Talk to
right?
RFK.
Yeah, talk to RFK. If you look at the ingredients in Fruit Loops in the United States and compare those ingredients to Fruit Loops in Canada, there's an imaginary line. that separates the US from Canada. It's imaginary, right? People went, oh, we're going to draw it right here. But if you go there, there's no line drawn. Wow, if I can say it. There's no line drawn. No one has gone and said, oh, we're going to put a Sharpie mark right here that separates. It's an imaginary line.
Strangely enough, in Fruit Loops, the first ingredient is not fruit.
It's not.
But it's the first word in the name.
Correct. My point being, most places you go in the United States, when you look at the ingredients in the food, it's why we are seeing a resurgence of wives baking sourdough bread. Because you know what's in the ingredients for their sourdough bread? Flour, water, and salt. If you go look at the ingredients on bread that you buy in any grocery store, it's 2.5 paragraphs.
Well, that and some of the words you can't even pronounce. If you can't pronounce the word, you don't need to eat it.
If you don't know what sodium benzenate does to a human being, you need to. It's that simple. But to your point, Renee, this steakhouse gets simple, straightforward ingredients.
Yes.
That really does it right. And it's almost like cooking at home without being at home. Because when I cook steak, it's better because I don't have to clean up.
Yeah, well, that and, my wife doesn't cook. So I can come here and Chef Willie takes care of it.
Hopefully Polly doesn't hear that.
No, she knows.
Oh, okay.
She's never cooked. I'm the one that does all the cooking at home. That was the deal we made. I cook, she cleans. Now, I'll make a big mess so she has something to do, but it's okay.
Renee, I say this with all love. You are a big mess.
Yes, I am.
It's okay. It's okay. But these are the types of reasons why when you want that special occasion, and Renee, I love that you said this when you said, this is my place.
Yeah. The people here just take so good care of you. You come in and they wait on you hand and foot. It's awesome.
One of the things that I remember about this restaurant, and I've said this, Walker, stick that finger where it doesn't shine. When the first time I came to this steakhouse, I couldn't afford it. I'm going to be straight up. And the crazy part is, if you look at the prices here, they're not nearly what they are at the big chain steakhouses in big cities. Not even close. And the food is so much better. But when I came here, I couldn't afford it. And I remember sitting in the corner in the private dining room with my wife and spending a Valentine's Day. We made that memory. It's our place. I don't own it, but it's our place. We want you to make this your place. Come here because it's special. It's almost as special as the penultimate segment of your Implicit Bias when we come back. Penultimate segment of this week's episode of Implicit Bias. That means it is the second to last segment of this week's show. Let me tell you, it's been an absolutely fantastic event at Mr. Lester Steakhouse at Cypress Bayou Casino. Okay, we're going to dive right in. We've talked about the food. We've talked about the whiskey. We've talked about the sea bass, which is sea bass and mac and cheese. I thought would have been a travesty. It's not. I'm just saying it is oh so good. And to quote Ferris Bueller, if you have the means, I highly recommend you. Anyway, we have now confirmed by the Secretary of State in Michigan. Again, please don't believe us on this. Michigan's Secretary of State confirms that there's an issue with the voting machines. So for those who are watching on YouTube, Facebook, Insta, X, this is my shocked face. Go ahead, Renee.
Are they using Dominion voting machines?
They are using Dominion voting machines.
Wasn't there a question about that?
No, Renee. Renee, here's what we were told. We were told that Dominion sued everybody and won, so therefore Dominion was on the up and up.
I mean, doesn't this go back to like the 2016 election?
This goes way...
Or even before that, maybe.
This goes, and I'm going to call this is a Mookie Betts call. This goes way back and catches the ball before it takes a Yankee to cheat him out of it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. Grant, you want to chime in? Walker, you know what you can do with that finger? Stick it.
I didn't say the finger. I'm just shaking my head
I
in
know you are.
disappointment.
I know you are. And I don't care that you're disappointed.
I'm a Yankees fan. I'm disappointed in the Yankees fan for doing what he did.
Okay. You know what? I appreciate
I'm
that.
very happy with what the Yankees did about letting the 15-year-old cancer patient and his family
Agreed.
take their seats for the Game 5, and the Yankees look really, really good right now.
This is why implicit bias matters. I don't like the Yankees. What the Yankees did with those seats was absolutely right. We don't have to like them, but we do need to respect when they do what's right. And Walker at least respects what was wrong and what was right. I appreciate that. We do the same. Grant, you want to chime in on the fact that now you have the Michigan Secretary of State?
Yeah, but I think Walker was actually just giving me the baseball score.
Oh, okay.
Which was just 5-0. Yeah, it's so funny because it's just every part of the voting process is just so just ripe to be manipulated in some sort of way. So if they don't know what we're talking about, the voting machine was, once the ballot was cast,
Correct.
was flipping the vote.
Yeah, well, we talked about this in the monologue because we were told that this never happened, right?
Right.
We were told in 2020, oh, no, this didn't exist. No, fraud didn't happen. Dominion didn't send votes to Italy and have them changed and then bring them back. Dominion machines weren't even hooked to the internet. No, never happened.
Yeah. Look, your shocked face at the beginning of this segment says it all. And
My shock face.
And that's all you can do. But again, certain level of comfort in knowing that it's being watchdog this time, and it's being watchdog to a much more sensitive degree than it was last election cycle. Because I think we're going to get some really interesting stories out of this. Because unlike last time, because another one of the stories you gave us was the flood. There was one of the voting stations. There was a leaky pipe, and so all of the Republicans and Democrat people watching the vote ran out into the parking lot. And then all of a sudden, oh, it's okay, the leak's fine. And all of the Democrat watchers came back in and started counting votes again, but all the Republican counters went home.
So before we go to Jonathan, this is an important part of history. We need to remember what you have to believe that the 2020 election was on the up and up. And why is this important? Why are we rehashing the past? Why? Because we have to learn from it. If in fact it was on the up and up, well, no, because these things won't happen again. If it wasn't, and we start to see, let's call it shenanigans again, maybe we know. So remember, in 2020, here's what happened. And we're going to do the whole Ace Ventura. It all started with a water main breaking in the Atlanta election counting facility where they claimed that they had to stop counting ballots, which they did not stop counting ballots because they kicked everybody out, then only brought certain people back in who kept on counting ballots for the rest of the night. But when they stopped counting ballots in Georgia, they then decided that they had to stop counting ballots in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and then all of a sudden declared that Arizona, with 1% of the vote in, was able to be called for one particular candidate. In other words, all of a sudden, with one candidate way ahead, you had everything decided, and then at 3 a.m. in the morning, when everybody was asleep, all of a sudden, one candidate gets a huge surge of votes and all of a sudden jumps up and you got fraud. That's all I'm going to say. Jonathan?
Man, you're good.
No, I'm not
Applause.
good.
Ring
I'm-
the bell.
Can I get a witness?
I just need to be condemned or committed. It's that simple.
So I'm wondering at what point are we just going to start calling these minion voting?
Ooh,
If you recall,
Yeah, not-
minions do what they're told, right?
not Dominion voting, but minion voting.
Well, so we could say that in South Louisiana, we calling them Dominions, right?
Yeah, not Dominion.
Not
duh,
Dominion.
like
Dominion.
D-O-H.
That's
Yeah.
right. We learned it first. There are Dominions that
So,
are
wait a minute,
collecting these votes.
Like the full-on Homer Simpson dope minion? Is that what we're talking about?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, Renee. Before I pass this to Grant, because this dessert
No,
looks
I'm
ridiculous.
thinking more of like Kevin, Stewart, and Bob. Dominions.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
You know, that it's just, that was one of the things that I was thinking about this year is how are they going to cheat the vote this time? Last time they used the pandemic to create the mail-in ballot, the drop box ballots, any other way they can create a ballot. How are they going to cheat it this time? That's what I'm very curious. And when we do implicit ballot on Tuesday,
Implicit ballots coming up Tuesday.
I'm looking forward to that. I hope we have lots of whiskey because we'll probably need it.
Okay, so let me set this up for those who don't necessarily know because we talked about it in hour one. We're going to do this on election night. Implicit ballots. Implicit ballots is a clean out the bar, live stream watch party from the top secret podcast lair as we get election results in for the 2024 presidential election. It's going to be a show. And we're going to enjoy the heck out of it. Because whatever's in the bar, whatever's left over, except for Deep Blue, which is the Implicit Bias Infinity bottle, which comes from William S. Nacol Jewelers, everything's fair game. Everything's fair game, which means, so Jonathan, you're talking about showing up, we'll rotate you in, we'll figure it out. But all night, everything's fair game except for Deep Blue. All night, which means everyone needs Ubers. Everyone needs an Uber. I'm just saying. My Uber is 18 years old. He lives in my house. He's going to be tasked with that. Getting dad home. It's just that simple. Grant, I'll be walking home. King of the Irish goodbyes will make sure that he makes his way home. Yes. All right, Jonathan, you want to chime in?
I'll just be there for the drinks.
Okay, that's what I figured. This bread pudding is, anybody want to chime in? I mean, has it made its way all the way around to Tug? Tug, you had it? He's nodding his head. He doesn't have a microphone. He's just sitting there eating. Jonathan, you've had it.
If you ask me if I want a dessert at a meal, if it's available, bread pudding, and my wife will tell you the same. I will ask those that don't make it at a restaurant to make it. This is phenomenal.
Here's the best part. I don't like pecans. The pecans in this make the dish.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. And the ice cream on the side, oh my goodness.
Is phenomenal.
No words. No words. Phenomenal.
I'll get some additional in a minute. Renee, you want to chime back in?
Well, and normally you order bread pudding and it's got all these rum sauces. This is regular bread pudding. It tastes like a pecan caramel base thing. You know, it just
it's almost like a liquid praline. Is what it's like.
Yeah,
yes.
it's a praline that's liquidy with ice cream on the side, and he's got fresh berries. He's got raspberries and blackberries, and you know, there
Renee,
are no words to express this.
Here's what I'm going to ask, Renee. How does that go with the cigars that you brought and the cigar that you are smoking here this evening? Because this is primary. It is proprietary to this restaurant.
Yes.
Almost.
I mean, it's the only place in the state that you can smoke in a restaurant. At the state of Louisiana, outlawed smoking in all restaurants except here, because this is not in the state of Louisiana.
This is its own sovereign nation.
Yes.
Walker?
Oh, he's given the
I'm
finger.
giving you, I'm not giving
Kavan's
you. Yeah.
given a sort of a finger back. But yeah, the cigars here, and that's why I feel so comfortable here, because I can come in, I can have a bourbon, a good whiskey, and the food is just phenomenal. And then afterwards, you just make a reservation to get a nap.
You can be you at Mr. Lester Steakhouse, which means that when we come back, we're going to talk about how we really, really, really love the troll on Implicit Bias. We are backing up that garbage truck on the last segment of Implicit Bias. I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon, and let me tell you, we have had way too much fun here at the top secret podcast lair south at Cypress Bayou Casino, Mr. Lester Steakhouse. The food has been fantastic. We've actually got Chef Willie Gaspard back with us. Chef, you brought out dessert. We talked about both of the entrees, the steak, the sea bass, fantastic. The dessert is also a work of art. You tell me there's a story behind this.
Yeah. So I was deer hunting last week. My mom made bread pudding for my dad to take to the camp.
Okay.
It wasn't that great. It was kind of dry.
We're not going to tell your mom.
It's okay. I told her. I already told her. Well, my dad had some fig preserves in the fridge at the camp. I seen my dad heat up a square bread pudding. He had a big old dollop of figs on top. I was like,
Chef, we need you to
That's
eat
an
that
idea.
microphone real quick because
that's an idea.
there we go. We can turn down the volume on it because we've got some people in the background at the bar who've
it.
had maybe a little too much to drink, which means they've each had one drink.
So,
Yeah, the peanut gallery can be quiet back there, just saying. Anyway, go ahead.
so my dad's eating his big square bread pudding with a bunch of figs on top. I was like,
Oh.
I've never had fig bread pudding before. I'm going to make fig bread pudding. And there it is.
It is fantastic. What's the ice cream, Chef?
There's figs in the bread pudding.
Chef, what's the ice cream?
It's fig and bourbon ice cream.
And yes, my wife, who absolutely loves figs, bourbon, pecans, all of it. There are some dietary issues where some of those things become an issue. She had to have a bite and said it was absolutely off the charts. And I'd bet anybody here who's got a microphone would say exactly the same thing.
That's phenomenal. I mean, you have to experience that. How do you put something that's just so deliciously palatable through a microphone?
Chantel Galatas gave it her seal of approval, which is really hard to get. She said the ice cream is off the charts. Renee?
I just want to know, how do you make liquid pralines? Because basically it's sitting on a bed of liquid praline.
It is.
And that combination of the bread pudding, the pecans and the figs, and oh my God.
You know what maybe the best part of that whole statement is, Renee? You actually know how to say praline as opposed to caramel, because you actually said praline, not praline.
Brought that
because
back up.
no one says praline who's from Louisiana. Everybody from Louisiana understands it's a praline. But if you go anywhere else, they're like, oh, it's
Deja
a
vu.
praline. If you go to Georgia, they call it a praline. It's like, no, you didn't invent
y'all
it.
Stop. Look, we spent 50 minutes on caramel last time we did this.
That's what I was going to say. The
Let it go.
praline has a caramel taste to it.
Yes, it has a caramel taste to it. Thank you. Not a caramel. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about backing up that dump truck, because we got a gift. And I say we because we will tell you that we are conservative. Matter of fact, some people say that I sit to the right of Attila the Hun. That's fine. But we are conservative. What? Yeah, no, he is not Attila the Hun, Renee, and it's not your right. That would be actually your left, Renee. Anyway. No, you're right. Your right sitting of Grant would be Walker. Right and left is a thing we learn in kindergarten. Anyway, the whole concept of insulting voting bases is really only owned by one party. I would be proud to say that I'm a deplorable. I think everybody in here would. Come on, Renee. Renee, you're slacking.
Can I have a witness?
There you go. Can I get a witness? I'm proud to say I'm a deplorable. And just 24 hours ago, pretty much everyone who would vote conservative in this country was called garbage. Anyone who disagrees with giving benefits to those who are not American citizens as opposed to those who are American citizens, you are garbage. Anyone who decides that children should not be allowed to make surgical decisions for themselves, you are garbage. I don't care what adults do. I don't think anybody in here would give a rat's rear end. To give you the unfiltered version, I don't think anybody in the Top Secret Podcast layer would give a rat's ass what two adults do behind closed doors or by themselves to themselves. That's your life. Live it to the best. I wish the best for you. But the minute you try and push it on somebody else, the minute you call someone else garbage or judge someone else for that decision, that's a problem. And sleepy, crazy, dementia, as sad as that is, Joe, called 50+% of America garbage yesterday. So what did the troll do? Maybe the troll that is the master of all trolls, the troll showed up in the Trump garbage truck today. Grant, go ahead.
He's just one step ahead of him.
Well, it's not hard to be one step ahead of somebody who ain't made it out of bed yet.
I know.
I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, it's
Renee, finally on point. It only took 2.5 hours. I'm just going to say.
and it's just ironic because what he ran on in 2020 was bringing the country together. He was going to unite us, and halfway through his term, he sat there and called half of us, and with that the whole background where it was a blood red background and there was military people, called half of the country, half of his people in this country, just well, basically called us garbage back then as well.
It's not the first time we've been called garbage, but here's what I love. And this, I was giving this some thought. If you look at the backgrounds of every person here in the Top Secret podcast lair, from those who are sitting in front of microphones to those who aren't on camera because they do their best to hide from the camera, and that's okay. We all came from very different backgrounds. And the reality is, whether you came from bougie or you came from the hood, whether you came from the absolute just, parents who were fighting and scraping, whatever you came from, we're all each other's people. I love that I had the opportunity to experience the bougie side and to experience the side, which is where I live now, which is reality for 95% of Americans, maybe more, that you got to work for a living every single day to put food on the table and a roof over the heads of those that you care about. That's the reality. I don't get to sit in my house and collect a check because I don't feel like working, right? I don't get to say, hey, I want to go live over there and get $7,000 to $10,000 a month to do it. I don't think anybody here does. Everybody here looks at every single person who works and cares and says, you know what? You're just like me. Your job is just different. And that's the big deal. That is what everyone on the leftist, the crazy side misses. Because everyone on that side says, you're entitled and I'm not. No. You think other people never worked? Granted, there are some people who got their money the real old-fashioned way. They inherited it, I'm sure. But if you inherited $1 million and you're worth $5 billion today, you worked. If you inherited nothing and you're worth 30,000, you work too, and there's no difference in the value of either individual. And that's why faith plays such a large part in this show, because at the end of the day, in God's eyes, you are exactly the same as your fellow human being, which is why when they tell you vote because people aren't paying their fair share, wrong. When they tell you vote because they only want for their friends, wrong. When they tell you vote because they don't care about your rights, when they tell you vote because they're trying to take this from you, they're wrong every single time. All they're telling you, they're trying to get you to vote for their implicit bias instead of your own. And that's why you don't want to miss implicit ballots on November 5th. That's why you don't want to miss any more of this show. That's why you want to subscribe on X, on Facebook, on YouTube. That's why you want to stick with us, and that's why you want to come visit us at all of our implicit bias events. We'll see you in 7 and can't wait to see what happens on November 5th.